Meanwhile, whatever you do, don't fall asleep. Hey Watchers, today's episode is really exciting for us because it kicks off our favorite movie time of the year, Halloween.
And what better way than to also review our first movie by the legendary horror filmmaker, Wes Craven. This movie is considered one of the greatest slasher films of all time, spawning multiple sequels and creating a character as savage and unforgettable as Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees.
So put on some comfy pajamas, kids, and brew some really, really strong coffee. It's time to be delightfully terrified by 1984's A Nightmare on Elm Street. Welcome to the Midnight Watch Podcast, the show where we discuss classic, cult, and modern classic movies.
We're your hosts, Josh and Jeremy, and we try to review movies that are at least 10 years old and see what kind of impact they made or are still making on culture and the film industry. We are heavy on spoilers here, so if that's not for you, pause this, go watch the movie, and then come on back and finish this episode.
We rate these movies in 4 categories. Number 1, the level of impact and success it had when it was released. Number 2, how relevant is it today? Number 3, our own personal enjoyment of this movie. And number 4, is it a midnight watch?
Well, we've been counting the days till we could do a solid run of horror movies to review. And yes, now we're finally here. So without wasting any more time, what are some facts about A Nightmare on Elm Street, Jeremy?
All right, let's see. It came out in 1984, directed by Wes Craven, more like Wes Slayen.
That's actually funny because I think, if I read correctly, he was kind of on a downward trajectory with his previous 2 films when this came out, and this definitely put him back on the map, I guess.
Yeah, he killed it. There's going to be a lot of puns in this episode. I feel like this whole month is going to be like Pun City. Welcome to Puntober.
Right.
Not punned. Anyways, the score, Charles Bernstein. That's freaking cool. He also did Psycho. So like I really like the soundtrack in this movie because it's, you hear it, you know exactly what movie it's from. It's that creepy little kids thing. It's not like Children of the Corn. It's different, but it's almost like that nursery rhyme.
It's very synth heavy on top of having that kind of kid nursery rhyme feel.
Yeah.
So it's very like on point for the time period.
Dude, you know the song Dreamcatcher or Dreamweaver?
Yeah. So
like, you know how that song starts off with that really creepy synth sound? Like Wes Craven was actually inspired by that. And so that's why some of the Nightmare on Elm Street music sounds like that style.
Right.
So, which is why every time that song comes on, I'm always like, this is a creepy song. And then it kicks in. And I'm like, oh yeah, I like this song.
Right.
Budget. This is the crazy thing. Budget is like barely over $1 million. They originally were trying to do 600,000 and they were able to, like, everybody was turning Wes Craven down. And so then he went to New Line Cinema, and this was their first major budget movie that they ever produced. So this is the movie that they say, this is the movie that Freddy built, and so basically the house that Freddy built. That's what they say.
Right,
this movie
for
is.
New Line Cinema. Yeah.
So without this movie, New Line Cinema, which still, I don't even know if they'd be around, but they have their own crazy stories of like almost going out of business multiple times, and then Lord of the Rings saves them, and then like, you know, Mortal Kombat saves. Okay, I don't know if Mortal Kombat saves them, but anyways.
But no, they put out some huge hits though, which I mean, I feel like for a while there, it's almost like anything they were putting out was definitely worth, going to go see.
Yeah, definitely for a while. Whenever I see New Line Cinema, I'd be like, I'm in for something good.
Right.
And I'm sure I don't feel like that anymore, but I'm trying to think of a terrible movie they put out, and I keep thinking about Mortal Kombat Annihilation. But anyways, box office though, this freaking blew it out of the water. It was $57 million. So they made back their entire budget in the first 2 days that this movie was released. So it was off to a great start.
Major score for New Line.
Oh, dude, freaking crazy. Let me run through the cast real quick. We have the Robert Englund. We have Heather Langenkamp. I think it's Langenkamp. Johnny Depp. I don't know who that is. John Saxon, Amanda Weiss, and Roni Blakely. So pretty awesome, solid cast. By the way, John Saxon actually comes back and reprises his role in the third movie. So I guess that's a spoiler that he makes it in this movie. Or he could be a ghost in the third movie. I don't know. We should probably watch.
But it's kind of like Inception. Is it a dream and a dream and a dream?
Yeah. I mean, technically, that's how the movie ends. You're just like, where, what?
What's real?
Yeah.
Does the top stop spinning?
The kid's got to turn around. Anyways. We should totally link it. That should be our new Matrix. Okay, anyways. Let's jump into the synopsis. I have a lot of trivia about this movie, so let's do it.
All right, well, let's get the synopsis broken down. Once again, this is Wikipedia. It's a little bit, I don't know. It's not the best one we've done on the show, but it'll work. If you've never seen the movie, you'll understand what's up.
Just real quick.
Yeah.
We should probably start saying this, but like, since we use Wikipedia like every episode, if you guys like this, you should probably donate to Wikipedia, since it's literally one of the last like platforms where it doesn't seem like it's super controlled. So anyways, I love Wikipedia.
It is very open source. Yeah,
it is.
Okay, here we go. In March 1984, Tina Gray awakens from a nightmare when she is attacked, or I should say wherein she is attacked by a disfigured man wearing a blade-fixed glove in a boiler room. Her mother points out 4 mysterious slashes on her nightgown. The following morning, Tina is consoled by her best friend Nancy Thompson and her boyfriend Glenn Lance. The two stay at Tina's house when Tina's mother goes out of town, but their sleepover is interrupted by Tina's boyfriend Rod Lane. When Tina falls asleep, she dreams of being chased by the disfigured man. Rod is awakened by Tina's thrashing and sees her dragged and totally slashed by an unseen force, forcing him to flee as Nancy and Glenn awaken to find Tina bloodied and dead. The next day, Rod is arrested by Nancy's father, Don Thompson, despite his pleas of innocence. At school, Nancy falls asleep in class and dreams that the man, who calls himself Freddy, chases her to the boiler room where she is cornered and burns her arm on a pipe. The burn startles her awake in class and she notices a burn mark on her arm. Nancy goes to Rod at the police station, who tells her details about what happened to Tina along with his own recent nightmares. This makes Nancy believe that Freddy is responsible for Tina's death. At home, Nancy falls asleep in the bathtub and is nearly drowned by Freddy. Nancy then depends on caffeine to stay awake and invites Glenn to watch over her as she sleeps. In her dream, Nancy sees Freddy prepare to kill Rod in his cell before he turns his attention towards her. Nancy runs away and wakes up when her alarm clock goes off. Freddy kills Rod by wrapping bed sheets around his neck like a noose. Nancy, her father, and Glenn find his body hanging in his cell, making it look like Rod committed suicide. At Rod's funeral, Nancy's parents become worried when she describes her dreams about Freddy. Her alcoholic mother, Marge, takes her to a sleep disorders clinic where, in a dream, Nancy grabs Freddy's fedora, with his name Freddy Krueger written in it, and pulls it from the dream into reality. Upon barricading the house, Marge reveals to Nancy that Krueger was a sadistic child murderer released on a technicality and then burned alive by parents living on their street, seeking vigilante justice. Nancy realizes that Krueger, now a vengeful ghost, desires revenge and to satiate his psychopathic needs. Nancy tries to call Glenn to warn him, but his father prevents her from speaking to him. Glenn falls asleep and is killed by Krueger. Now alone, Nancy puts Marge to sleep and asks Don, her dad, who is across the street investigating Glenn's death, which they never don't really point this out, but in case you figure it out, Don is a cop. So there's that. He's across the street.
Kind of a main part of the story. That's weird.
Right.
Wikipedia disappointed.
Letting us down.
Hey, I guess we can edit it right now.
There we go.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So he dawns across the street, investigating Glenn's death. She asks him to break into the house in 20 minutes, her own house, because her mom locked it up. Nancy rigs booby traps around the house and grabs Krueger out of the dream and into the real world. The booby traps affect Krueger enough that Nancy is able to light him on fire and lock him in the basement. Nancy rushes to the door for help. The police arrive to find that Krueger has escaped from the basement. Nancy and Dawn go upstairs to find a burning Krueger smothering Marge in her bedroom. After Dawn puts out the fire, Krueger and Marge vanish into the bed. When Dawn leaves the room, Krueger rises from the bed behind Nancy. Nancy realizes that Krueger is powered by his victim's fear, and she calmly turns her back to him. Krueger evaporates when he attempts to lunge at her. Next, Nancy steps outside into a bright and foggy morning where all of her friends and her mother are still alive. Nancy gets into Glenn's convertible to go to school, and then the top suddenly comes down and locks them in as the car drives uncontrollably down the street. 3 little girls in white dresses playing jump rope are heard chanting Krueger's nursery rhyme as Marge is grabbed by Krueger through the front door window.
Yes.
And there you have it.
I want to say, first off, Glenn sucks in this movie.
He's so unreliable.
He is the worst. He's just like...
You got one job, Glenn. You need to stay awake. Can you do that, Glenn?
Stay awake, Glenn. Come on. And I got to say, this is probably one of Johnny Depp's worst movies. He's just...
Well, I mean, we got to cut him a huge amount of slack. This was his first role ever, I think. Well,
yes.
his major motion picture debut, at least. But yeah, I think pretty sure it's the first thing he did. I do have a fact, even though you're probably going to point this one out.
Yeah, what's that?
And trying to quickly go to my notes.
It's okay, I'll cover for you. Glenn sucks.
Okay, jump into yours. I'm going to find my my note here.
This is Johnny Depp's first movie. Apparently, Wes Craven's daughter thought he was hot and pressured her dad to hire him. And so there was a bunch of like big name actors like C. Thomas Howell, Charlie Sheen, and let me see, like basically a lot of those guys. Keith Sutherland was considered for this movie. So they were trying to pull in some big names for this movie, which is kind of surprising that Johnny Depp actually got this. So I don't know if he did 21 Jump Street. I think he did 21 Jump Street after this movie. Because I want to say that was a main 80s show. But anyways, straight up though, like it was freaking hilarious. There's so many parts in this movie that are like hilariously unintentional hilarious, and then there's other parts where it's just like they have a crazy stunt in this movie though. I gotta say, let's jump right into that. That last scene when they light Freddy on fire, and then he like starts to run up the stairs and falls down, and then runs up the stairs. That's one take, and that guy was on fire the entire time while he was doing that. So that was like a long time for that guy to be on fire. Like
that's pretty awesome.
It is. It sells. It's a great scene in the movie, but it's freaking scary. Like when I read up on that, I was like, that is legit, like serious stunt there.
Right. I feel like it's maybe the only time in the movie you actually feel sorry for Freddy.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, dang, that guy was already scarred from, dying in a fire, and now he's on fire again. I mean, it's like he's actually terrified at that point. Or I don't know. I felt terrified for him,
They bring up, I didn't think about that, but that's a good point. Because in Freddy versus Jason, they bring up what Freddy's afraid of and what Jason's afraid of. It's like Freddy's more afraid of like fire. Jason's afraid of water. Mm-hmm. And so these movies take place in the same universe, which is funny because Sean Cunningham, who directed Friday the 13th in 1980, he was friends with Wes Craven. And so Wes Craven was trying to have Sean Cunningham help make this movie, since Wes Craven directed a couple scenes inside Friday the 13th. And so Sean Cunningham read the script and he was like, this isn't scary. It's not going to work. But he tried to support him anyways. And he ended up filming a couple scenes of this movie
that's
too.
Cool.
So that kind of like unintentionally, they already have kind of a connection already.
Right. I love the Sam Raimi connection too. Jump through these. Yeah, I know.
Sorry. Have you seen? Okay, so first off, we're recording this episode a little early. It's the beginning of October, and so I had never seen the original The Hills Have Eyes by Wes Craven. That's his second movie that he did after Last House on the Left. Have you seen the original The Hills Have Eyes?
I've seen bits and pieces of it, but it's another one of those ones where it was just like on TV and I kind of watched a little bit of it, but I haven't sat down and just like watched it through. So I need to do that. Yeah.
Well, that came out in 1977, and then Evil Dead came out in 1980. And yeah, this is the connection you were talking about.
Yep.
Where they had in the what's it called? Downstairs.
Right.
And Evil Dead, in the downstairs part.
The
I totally
cellar.
like it. Thank you. Yeah, I'm like
Yes.
the downstairs shed. That's not right. The cellar. They have part of the Hills Have Eyes poster on the wall. It's like ripped, but you can tell it's the poster. And so Wes Craven thought that was cool. So that's why inside this movie, he's got Johnny Depp is watching Evil Dead on the boob tube.
Right.
Do people
also
say that anymore? I felt so awkward when I said that.
I know there's not really tubes in there, so no. I think that's a generation.
I think so.
Behind or ahead. Well, yeah, older than us.
Way behind.
Yeah, way back. But
Anyways.
yeah, and then the connection between, when Evil Dead 2 came out, there's his
Freddy's claw is on the wall.
We're passing back the brain farts back and forth.
There you go. Yeah, brain farts
So, yes.
galore.
Okay, hey, I found the thing I was going to say about Johnny Depp earlier.
Yes.
So I thought this was cool.
That is his real hair. Yes, go ahead.
Oh man, hair for days. As one follically challenged, I couldn't help but envy that.
Ah, man, I feel
that luscious mane. Okay, so anyways, I guess Johnny Depp showed up to the casting with his buddy Jackie Earl Haley, who
No way, for real?
who was going there to try to get the role of Glenn, who ended up being Freddy in the 2010 remake. And for those of you who don't know who I'm talking about, if you've seen Watchmen, he's the actor that plays Rorschach, who is amazing.
That
He's in
is
some
so
other
cool.
stuff too. Yeah,
I did not know. I literally did not know that. He's the best part of any movie he's in.
he's awesome. Yeah, he is such a cool actor. And as far as like the remake goes of Nightmare on Elm Street, it's not great, but he's awesome. Like maybe it's just because I love him. I don't know.
No, he does they make Freddy serious, which in this movie they hadn't really made. Freddy's not funny in this movie. He gets funny, I would say, I don't even know if he's that funny in the second movie, but he definitely starts getting really funny in the third one and playing that whole like
actually cracking jokes. This one,
right.
I don't know. I find him humorous in this, or maybe, I don't know, just like charming in a weird way. I don't know.
Right. That's Robert Englund though. Like freaking, he is so good. He's in loads of stuff. He's like the male version of Dee Wallace. He's in like everything, But Hills Have Eyes, by the way, Dee Wallace is in that movie. And that's, I think, the youngest that I've seen her in. But anyways.
Nice tie-in.
Yeah, I watched that movie today for the first time, Hills Have Eyes. So I thought that was kind of cool.
That's funny. I thought you saw that a long time ago, because I remember when you were like all about it, but you must have been all about the remake.
Dude, no, I was all about, Alexandra Aja. I was all about the remake. And I think it's one of these rare times where the remake is actually a way better movie than the original. Because they take basically, say the movie has the original has like 50% of the plot, and the remake, they flesh out the story a lot. It's a lot more interesting. Of course, they had a way bigger budget, but it's a lot more brutal though than the first one. So,
of course.
So
a lot more freedom. But yeah, speaking of brutal, this movie for the low budget, it looks fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the first kill scene when Tina gets killed, and the way she's getting dragged all around the the room and up onto the ceiling, and I mean you can tell that they had to have either built the room upside down, or I guess it was a rotating
it was a
set.
Rotating room that they used.
But it is so cool. I mean, it's still all these years later just really amazing to see. I mean, I know you and I are huge fans of practical special effects, but this stands the test of time. It is really cool and disturbing and awesome.
Yeah, I love that. They literally strapped down Tina's boyfriend, Rod. And so like the one scene when he's like, Tina, and the camera's right next to him, he's actually upside down in that scene, and she's on the ground. And so that's such a cool scene though. I totally agree. The special effects in this movie, the creativity behind the kills is awesome. And that's a big deal for me when watching slasher films, because otherwise they can get boring real quick. Is the creativity. I mean, that's like, it's why the Friday the 13th movies have kind of get stale after a while. And so then they start getting creative. And but anyways, with this one though, I was surprised at how much of the actual story was in this movie. Because in the remake, they take like the story from all the first 6 films and cram it into one movie. And this had a lot more story to it than I remembered, about like Freddy's background, about how like what's her name? The main girl's mom has a connection to Freddy. I mean, it's kind of creepy that she still has his claw, his glove.
Oh yeah, no, all the parents are pretty messed up in this movie. I mean, they are not good parents.
No, they go full on like Orient Express, where it's like all the parents murder Freddy, like vigilante justice, and then they're like, which something they left out of the movie. They were originally they were left out a couple lines that like all of the characters used to have siblings. They weren't actually. They used to have older siblings, but they died because of Freddy, and so then that they just didn't say anything to the younger siblings. Because that's how Freddy's power grows, is like by him knowing. So it's, if you forget about Freddy, then Freddy goes away.
Right.
So anyways, over 500 gallons of fake blood was used during filming, dude. So
yeah.
And I think the only movie that passed this quickly was probably Evil Dead 2 with the freaking shotgun wall. But
wall of blood.
The wall of blood. But I'm not gonna lie, like I felt bad for the kids, except for Glenn. Freaking Glenn, he deserved it. Everybody, like he was.
I know.
Freaking fell asleep all the time. I was like, "Come on, Johnny."
Like way to not even try. Oh, and when he screams when he's getting taken at the end. So he's super young, obviously. I mean, this is very young Johnny Depp. His voice is still higher pitched and everything, but when he screams, he's still got that Johnny Depp scream. That's just, it's like, it's weird. I don't know. No one screams like Johnny Depp. It feels like a strangled, like, I don't know.
Right?
It's like Pee Wee Herman screaming.
That would be crazy. Freddy all of a sudden pops up and he's like, Anyways, let's see. Oh, the intro to this movie. I loved the intro to this movie. When it shows them making Freddy's making the glove. Yeah, I totally forgot about. Oh yeah, hey, where were you when you first saw this movie?
There we go again, forgetting.
22 minutes in, and we.
Good Lord.
Will we ever learn? Probably not.
Well, last week we did it right.
That's true.
One out of how many?
1 out of 18 episodes. That's true.
I think, to be fair, we were pretty excited about doing this one, so we just,
That's true. That's true.
So this is the first time I actually sat down and watched it straight through, because this is another one of those movies that I'd seen bits and pieces of the movie. I remember being terrified of this character when I was a little kid. I think the third movie, what was the third one called?
Dream Warriors.
Yes. So I remember going to the movies with Grandpa and Grandma, and I think with Jamie, I'd assume, and I think her cousin Christine was there too, and she's about 10 years older, I think, than I am. Anyways, and that one came out in 87, I think, so I was about 7.
Oh yeah, I was about 0.
About 0. Maybe conceived then.
0.3.
But I remember being at the theaters and seeing the poster for it and just being terrified. And my cousin Christine, who was, a teenager then, she was like, "Oh, let's go see this instead." And she was kind of joking, but obviously really wanted to go see the movie. But yeah, just this terrified me all growing up. And I think in a little bit just kind of made me always hesitant to sit down and watch it. But like I said, I watched the remake and I hadn't seen, this one all the way through. I knew the like iconic scenes and stuff like that, but yeah, so this was really the first time really just sitting down and getting the full effect. Like
for this review, this was the first time?
Yeah.
Wow. All right. I don't feel as bad now that I haven't seen the Karate Kid. So, anyways, yeah, I was the same way. I had seen pictures of Freddy as a little kid, was terrified of Freddy. Because like Jason was scary, but Freddy was like, you could see him lit up and he was scary looking.
Right.
And I remember going to, was that Party America or something like that, some party store, and they had a full life-size cutout of Freddy, and I just I couldn't even walk past it. I was so freaking scared of it. And, don't turn your back on it. You don't want it to sneak up on you.
Right.
And so once I started getting into movies, like 20 years later, and just started blowing through a bunch of different movies, started loving horror movies, I actually don't remember when I first saw this movie. It was like within that, like when I was like 19.
And you're just mashing through movies.
Yeah, just blowing through. I think I watched the first 6 movies, probably like one right after another. And
oh, wow. So it all blurs together then, yeah.
Right. Because I did the same thing with Friday the 13th. I watched 8 movies like in a row.
Dang.
Like, in a week. And so just like bam, 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 bam. And so, which is kind of funny though, because like, as an adult, I feel that Friday the 13th is way scarier than the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Like the first one, the rest of them, that'll be a fun conversation to have. But,
right.
Yeah, but this movie though, yeah. So I think I've only seen this movie all the way through twice. Actually, I don't think I've seen bits and pieces of it. I've seen the set, like for some reason the third movie is the second movie is the one I've seen the most. I've seen that one at least like 3 or 4 times because that one's always on TV for some reason when I would watch that one. So
that's interesting.
Which that one's kind of the black sheep of the family. A lot of people hate that movie, but I actually think that movie is the scariest one out of them all because that one.
You think it has the biggest like cult following maybe?
I don't know. That's a good question. I know that people loved the third movie. They thought that was a true sequel to the first one. And, but anyways, yeah, let's jump back into this.
All
Let's
right.
see here.
Well, like you said, you love the opening where he's building the glove, and
yes,
I was immediately hit with how great the soundtrack is as soon as that kicks in, and it's got this awesome synth sound going on. It's very, very much on point for the time period.
Yes, very much.
But
so.
It has like his little theme that's being played. It's very nursery rhyme sounding, old school nursery rhyme, but worked in with the synth orchestration. Super cool. I was just digging it immediately.
Right. The whole 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. 3, 4, better lock your door.
Right.
5, 6, grab your okay. Anyways. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about is 7, 8. Better don't stay. Never mind. Yeah. So the thing that's interesting is I feel like I could totally be wrong, but I feel like this movie compared to Friday the 13th, this is a slasher film. I feel like this movie though is more of a popcorn slasher film movie where it's like you go in to watch the kills. You want to get scared. You want to be tense and like frightened, but at the same time you're laughing with your friends. And I feel like this is definitely like a popcorn horror movie that's designed to just have fun, not to like terrorize you and like have trauma from it.
I agree. I mean, unless there are those out there who really were terrified by it, to me, it's just super fun. I mean, it's definitely, it's got a couple of really good jumps at the end of the movie, and they're coming, and they still, get you. So those are some quality jump scares, I would say. But no, it's super fun. I mean, this is a great like group movie for sure. Which I know most horror movies probably are more fun to watch in a group.
Yes.
Which is, I think that's kind of how I really fell in love with horror movies, especially the older ones. Just, watching them with big group of friends. Yeah, it's so much fun I don't know. I think because a lot of horror movies don't require a lot of brain power, so you don't have to be like super focused in on the movie to enjoy it. You can be like talking with people and you can just have a good time and be experiencing this shared experience. Mm-hmm. And I think it's totally legit. So the thing I like about this movie a lot, though, like seriously, is just it's so creative. Like, it is. Every dream sequence is totally different. They don't cheat on it. Every dream sequence has at least one nasty thing that happens in it. I love it just because, like, Freddy, for example, when he like shows up the first time, what's the main chick's name? I am totally blanking. Her name's her character name or her real name?
Nancy. Yeah. Right, because every other white girl in the movie in the 80s was named Nancy. And it's probably why they did it in Stranger Things. Anyways.
Exactly.
Nancy, though, when she sees Freddy and he like pulls his shirt up and cuts himself and those like nasty bugs fall out and he looks gross, they could have totally skipped that. That's literally one scene and they didn't. They were like, you know what? Let's do it. Right. I love the commitment to this movie. They
really push the boogeyman beyond just being, he's scary. No, he's gross. Like, he's everything that is scary about a boogeyman. They pretty much incorporated into this character for the most part, I would say.
Yes. No, I totally agree. And the thing that I like. It's just also too it builds, and I don't feel like there's really any cheap scares. And the one thing I love that they don't do in this movie is somebody wakes up, oh, it's a dream, turns to the right, and Freddy's right there, and they're like,
right,
and then they wake up again. There's no fake outs in this movie.
Yeah,
and
it's super fresh compared to a lot of the other slashers. Because this is almost mid 80s, and so that slasher genre was really, I'd say going pretty strong by this point. I mean, this is a super fresh take on it, I would say. And then it's just so well done. Like there's no cheapness about this movie. And, a lot of what we love about 80s horror movies and some, 70s ones too, is a lot of times it's the campy cheesiness, but there's not that much of it in this movie. There's a little bit of bad acting, I would say, personally. Or maybe
Glenn
it just
sucks.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
but even I just forgot her name again. Heather Langenkamp, Nancy. There's a few scenes where you're just like, boy, she is like bored or something. Like she's supposed to be emotional, and it just seems kind of dead. But I mean, there's not too much of that because there's a lot of other scenes where I feel like her acting was pretty on point. For the scene. But really, like you said, there's nothing cheap about most of the scares or all the scares, in this one.
Yes. I think it's awesome. I love how she hid a coffee pot in her freaking closet.
Mom must have been under her bed. Mom must have been super drunk because she's taking out all the stuff. Right. Like, you can't smell that pot of coffee brewing under there.
All right. I was like,
good Lord.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought too. Was like the smell. But then Nancy gets up, looks out the door, and her mom freaking pulls out another vodka bottle from the laundry section.
Oh, I know.
I was like, oh, we're boats and hose. We're doing this. I was like, dang, this lady is like a legit alcoholic.
Oh, yeah. Every parent is terrible in this movie.
Oh, yeah. I actually liked, though, they didn't go into too much backstory of why her parents are divorced. They literally didn't even address it. You just assume it's because of Freddy, because of everything that they've gone through.
Well, it almost, I mean, you just look at them. They're a mess. He's like an arrogant, a-hole, all about the job, kind of atypical cop. And then she's just the absolute, like you said, alcoholic.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, obviously, they're a great pair together, so it doesn't take a lot of rocket science to figure out why they're not together.
Something happened. They went through some trauma and something happened, which is probably why they cut out the part. Well, I don't know. I guess if they had older siblings, Nancy and Glenn had older siblings or something like that, that then their parents. This is the first time that Freddy is showing up in people's dreams. So apparently,
it would have added a lot more depth to the movie for sure. Oh, one little thing, you probably saw this too, but it seems like the studio, they didn't pick apart too much with the movie, but I know some of the executives, they really wanted the kind of ending at the movie at the very end where the hook. Yeah. It's not a happy ending. It's, they were really pushed for it, even though he really had his own idea of how he wanted it to end. And that's where I think that if there's anything that's a little bit disjointed with the movie, it is the ending. But I agree. It's definitely, you can tell where that wasn't his original vision. That's some suit coming in there saying, oh, we want it to be this way. And it's like, and that I don't think ever works out well. Though it is pretty hilarious when Freddy rips the mom through the door, and it's so obviously a blow up doll. Like, you just can't, can't help but laugh.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree. And you're absolutely right. There's 4 different endings to this movie. And yeah, Wes Craven's original thing was that Nancy defeats Freddy, wakes up the next day, and everything's fine. And she goes to school, and that's the end of the movie. Right. And that does make more sense because otherwise the last sequence really doesn't make sense. You're right. With the rest of the movie.
Except for the whole Inception thing where you're like a dream and a dream and a dream, except that dream is the most ridiculous out of the entire movie. Out of everything that's happened, all the kill sequences, everything, that last one is just bananas.
So the thing that doesn't make sense too is when I was watching this movie, Freddy likes to play with his victims before he kills them.
Right.
And the only thing I liked about this sequel is when one guy gets killed, Freddy stabs him in the stomach, hanging him upside down, and then he's like, your brain is alive for 5 minutes after your body stops. He's like, so I've got 5 minutes of playtime. And I was like, that's creepy. that is really creepy.
That's very sadistic.
Let's see more of that, and
Right.
but like that. Let's see more, and that's the only thing they did though in the 2010 remake that I was like, oh. So, anyways, but in this movie though, like Freddy taunts everybody, and like he goes at him, but he's playing with them though.
Oh yeah.
And that reminded me of Pennywise actually. Like Pennywise feeds off of fear, and he's like, it's like an hors d'oeuvre sort of thing. Like it's tenderizing the steak before he eats.
Yeah.
And so that's what I got from Freddy in this. So that doesn't make sense that he all of a sudden just like wipes out everybody at the end of the movie. So
right.
That takes away a couple points from the movie of this actually being pretty solidly written for my standard. But
again, I can see too where it's not his fault, where they're like, they might have just put the hammer down. Like, look, the movie doesn't get put out unless you do it this way. So I get it when your hands are tied. Yeah.
That's literally pretty much what happened. So let's do a little bit of background on good old Wes Craven. Wes Craven actually did not start watching horror movies until he was in college. So he's actually kind of similar to you and me. Like he was not raised on watching classic movies like these. And then once he started going to college, then he was actually planning to be a professor. And he started loving movies so much that he graduated from college and then went into making movies. And he made Last House on the Left, which is a very intense grindhouse type of movie. And it's very different from his later films. Mm-hmm. And then he ran out of money. And 5 years later, he didn't want to make any more horror movies after that. He wanted to make different types of movies. But he ran out of money. So then he, on a shoestring budget, him and Peter Locke, they went and made The Hills Have Eyes. They literally just went to Las Vegas, drove out in the middle of the desert, and they're like, this is good, and started filming. And for what he did with the shoestring budget, that's why that movie is a cult classic, Mm-hmm. And then he did a couple of movies that were okay, and then he was able to, he had this script that he was writing. So like Freddy, this movie series comes from an idea, multiple different places. So like, he had been reading in the LA Times that over a course of several months, there were several people that were recorded that they were having nightmares, and then they ended up dying from them actually. Right. And so they checked and they didn't have like a heart attack. They literally went to sleep and were having a nightmare and they died. So this happened to a couple of people, and he was like, that's interesting. And then Freddy's character comes from, Freddy Krueger is the name of somebody who bullied him in high school.
Right.
Or middle school.
I thought that was crazy. Just like, flat out, like, I'm just going to use that person's name.
Right.
You are the villain.
You are. Which I'm sure that guy now, I don't know. If your name's like Bart Simpson, then you're probably not like, hey, I'm super excited about that.
Right.
But anyways, so then also too, when he was like a little kid, and apparently he was living in these apartments, and he looked outside, and it was at night, and there was a guy in a fedora hat, like an old man, just staring up at him. And he got really freaked out, and he was like thinking, he's like, as an adult, it was probably a drunk guy that was just, but he's like, right. As a kid, there's this dark figure that's staring up at him through this window. And so he heard the guy kind of go around to the front of the apartments, and he started freaking out because he thought the guy was coming for him. So he mixed that, and then that idea of like people falling asleep and dying in their nightmares, and came up with Freddy. And he wanted to have a different type of weapon for Freddy. So him being a college major, he actually started studying primal fear and how like people are afraid of things that have claws. And so that's why he actually decided to have Freddy have a claw knife, or a claw glove. And so they're made out of tomato knives. I didn't know that. They are tomato knives. So
okay. I know everybody keeps saying steak knives, but they don't. I don't know. They don't look like any steak knife I've ever seen. So.
Right.
And then correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like in that first scene when the hand's being built, is there like a straight razor? Also?
That's what I thought. Like, I don't remember. Like, I remember seeing a straight razor, but I'm trying to remember if he uses that to cut the design, or
maybe he uses okay.
Yeah, but then if he fastens it together. Yeah, if he had steak knives on it, then like that would be just like Glenn. It would suck. So anyways, I'm going to run that joke into the ground. Anyways, don't get me wrong, guys. I love Johnny Depp, and he's gone on to do great things.
Sure.
So, I mean, it's so much fun to watch. He's fun to watch in this movie.
I was going to say, it's a fun character. It's just, I mean, it's kind of one of those things that's fun about horror movies is you pick on stuff like that. And you laugh, and and get driven nuts by the idiot.
Right.
All you got to do is stay awake. That's all you got to do, and he continually falls asleep.
I feel like he doesn't even freaking try like half the time. She's like, if you could do one thing for me, do this. And he's like, God, I got it. Okay. Jeez. I mean, it's like, he's like the Napoleon Dynamite of boyfriends. He's like, oh, whatever, Tina, eat your food. But anyways.
Hey, way to tie Tina into this too. Very nice.
Hey, there you go. Tina, you fat lord, come eat some dinner.
Eat your ham.
Eat your ham. Ruining our lives, eating all our steak. Okay. Anyways, I think that's about it that I got for trivia. I had to slim it down. There's a lot of trivia for this movie.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here. I do love how he was trying to cast, a really large actor, or maybe just a large stuntman to play Freddy, because that's generally how. I mean, Jason Voorhees is like that. He's a big hulking dude.
Right.
Michael Myers is a big dude. Most slashers are big, intimidating, and Freddy's small. I mean, he's the size of the girls. Really, he's a small dude, and it's creepy. It really works. And then the fact that there's actual acting that goes into it. I mean, Robert Englund is. He's iconic now for it, because I mean it wasn't just something some meathead big dude could just do. There had to be some heart and soul put into it.
Right. No, I totally agree. And so Freddy Krueger, he wanted an older actor, and he couldn't find anybody that was old that really sold it to him. So he started looking at different people, and Robert Englund just like nabbed it, which is funny because he basically, like, the slouch that he has is from him having the claw hand was actually, like, the claw glove was pretty heavy. And so he actually slouched over unintentionally when he was practicing his Freddy swag walk. And that just kind of came part of the character. So,
wow, that's cool.
I know there are some people that were really freaked out the first time you actually see Freddy. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, is when he's in the alley with Tina and his arms stretched way out. And like, there's a lot of people that were like, that is literally a nightmare that I have. So that freaked him out. I just love that, because the nightmare areas, if you're going to be in nightmares, like, go full on nuts. And they did it. Like, it was awesome. I loved it. Right. What do you think was
he doesn't hold back.
No, he doesn't. So what do you think was the creepiest part of this movie?
Oh, man. Well, obviously Freddy. I mean, anytime actually, one of the things I didn't like the most was when he's like tackling any of the girls. I mean, there's definitely like a rapey vibe going on.
Yes.
Like when he's wrestling them. And part of it is, I don't know if it's his size also, but it's definitely got an extra creepy element to it versus just any of the other stuff he says or does, or, the slashing or anything. None of that's as creepy as when he's kind of wrestling them down. Yeah. It's definitely got that rapey thing going.
Well, it's kind of funny. Originally, he was supposed to be a child molester / killer.
Yeah, right. And that actually comes through at that point. So, and that was probably intentional. I think, actually, I think I did remember reading Robert Englund was kind of channeling some court cases he had read about child molesters and stuff like that. So he went full creep.
he did it very well. He was very convincing.
Full pedophile. Yeah.
The petty killer. That's what they should have called him.
Oh, man.
Yeah. No, for me, I think the creepiest part, and it still gets me because of the vulnerability, is just when she's just chilling in the tub and his claw slowly comes out of the tub. And then
also another rapey vibe coming up between her legs like that. That's pretty disturbing. Right.
I thought that was that was super creepy. And so I definitely think that was it. But on a lighter note, there's two parts. I'm watching the movie. I'm not looking for like mistakes or anything like that. But when Nancy jumps off the roof to get away from Freddy, you clearly see her hit like the pads behind
the bushes or whatever.
The bushes. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then at the end, when Freddy's on fire, runs up the stairs and falls over backwards, he falls down and you clearly see the mattress that he falls on. And this is like, it's clearly like a twin size mattress, like a regular mattress.
Like a bed mattress.
Right. And I actually loved it more because of that, because I was just like, this is freaking legit. Like I could imagine all that, like the home movies that we used to make and stuff. And so
you use what you got.
Yes, absolutely.
Budget is everything.
I could talk about this movie for a long time. There's just the impact that this movie had on culture. Like this immediately, like Freddy became like iconic overnight. You know?
Yeah. I feel like I knew more about him as a kid, and we were pretty sheltered, I think I knew more about him for the scary thing that he was more than Jason or Michael Myers, really.
Right.
As far as, you know, the big slasher guys. And part of that was because he had a real face. It wasn't a mask. Yeah, there was expressions.
Yes.
I do remember the old Nintendo. Well, it wasn't actually a commercial, or I forget how it got used, or maybe it's a joke from one of the movies. But he's all now I'm playing with power, which was the. They tried to get Nintendo to be a part of the movie as far as using the power glove. And there was there was a Nightmare on Elm Street video game too, if I recall correctly. So I don't know why Nintendo didn't just go with that, because he was so iconic in the 80s.
Yeah, Nintendo's hit and miss. Like sometimes they do amazing things where you're like, that's the money. And there's other times where you're like, would you just do this?
Right.
Anyways, that's my other podcast. Just kidding. I don't have another podcast.
Well, one thing about this movie too is I felt like it had kind of a strong message as far as when you find out why he is what he is. Not the child murderer part, but the fact that he's a ghost because the parents they went for the whole vigilante justice thing. Yes. And it totally backfired on them. And just that whole point of 2 wrongs don't make a right. So I felt like I kind of feel this way about a lot of horror movies, that there is a deeper truth in there. And I feel like that was kind of hard hitting, as far as a lot of times people feel that way about people that get away with things and the justice system kind of fails them, or maybe they get put in jail for life and people are, it's not good enough. They need to do everything that person did should be done to them and all of that. But you just start thinking of the ramifications of, what vigilante justice really does. And of course this is, the whole ghost thing, but you look at how messed up the parents kind of became.
Oh yeah. This. Ruined their lives.
Right. And then, and I think Wes Craven, this was part of his, plan in this was the whole, the sins of the parents being visited upon the children.
Yes.
Kind of a concept. But anyways, I just thought that was cool that this really had kind of a real, some meat to it. It wasn't just a, scary, bloody movie for the sake of, being that.
Yeah, I would totally agree. And when Wes Craven has a lot of hit and misses. You don't hear about his misses very much because they're just forgettable. They're not like so bad that except for The Hills Have Eyes Part 2. Like he's actually disowned that movie. I mean, like rest in peace, but which I always confused. Like, how do you disown your own movies? Like, anyways. Right. But anyways, so his movies though, it's like either when they hit. And with him coming from I'm trying to remember what he was studying, but he definitely has a philosophical outlook on fear. And he constantly was looking at like, why are we afraid of different things? And so that was something that he was always interested in, and that kept drawing him back to the horror movies. And so that was pretty awesome.
Right.
Let's see. Anything else you want to do before we wrap this baby up?
I think that's it. I do feel like there was a kind of a mystery kind of detective kind of vibe to this movie too, with Nancy trying to figure out what's going on. So that was kind of a fun element to it that I don't think you always see either in movies like this. So and a strong female character, also kind of a female empowered kind of movie a little bit too.
No, she intentionally, they cast her to be a normal looking girl, like the girl, just normal looking person that you would know, but she goes full final girl at the end, like freaking Home Alone, booby traps it like crazy.
Oh, I thought the same thing. Well, this is totally had to have inspired the writers for Home Alone, the way the booby traps happened. And
yes,
it definitely had that kind of a feel.
Oh man, I would love to see Joe Pesci play Freddy. That would be amazing.
that would be cool.
Love it. Yeah. Anyways, okay. Let's jump into our rankings. So, number 1, I don't have my notes in front of me. So,
did it hit the mark back in '84?
That's what I said. Yes. Yeah. So what did it hit the mark, Josh?
I think so, considering the very small budget it had and how amazing that movie looks. But aside from that, that's my personal opinion. It did incredibly well in the box office. I mean, it made its money back easily in the first weekend. Huge success. Huge success. I give it an A.
I give it an A plus because it it made 50 times its budget.
Right.
So I give it an A plus.
What would you say for now?
Is it still relevant today?
Yes.
I would say yes. Like he's definitely become one of the iconic American boogeyman. And so when you see Halloween, you're naturally going to start seeing him appear. He's definitely like, it's one of the classic horror movies that you think of, like a horror movie series. So I give it a still relevant today in movie history. Absolutely. Philosophically and politically, I don't know. So
in pop culture though,
pop culture, yes, today. I give it an A. I'm going to give it a B because it's not like at the forefront of everybody's mind, but he's there. He's cemented his spot in pop culture. So I'm going to give it a B. What about you?
That's funny because I kind of struggle with that too. I feel like in a cult following sort of way, he's still hugely relevant today. But like you, I feel like it's kind of fallen back a little bit. So I was coming at it with a B, but I didn't feel too solid on it. But I feel better about my answer, with your explanation as well. So yeah, I give it a B.
Yeah.
For relevance today. Okay, how about enjoyment? How much did you like this movie?
Oh man, the personal enjoyment. I'm kind of conflicted between that because like I did like this movie, but it's not one of my favorites. But I am inspired by this movie. Like it definitely, it's just a fun, well-crafted movie. So I think I'm gonna give it a B because I did enjoy it. This is a great movie to watch with your friends. It's a great Halloween movie. I give it a B. What about you?
I'm 100% with you on that one too. I also gave it a B. Mm-hmm. I was surprised. I mean, one, it's a fun movie, like you say, a great group movie for sure. Great Halloween movie, but I was surprised. I went into it kind of thinking like, oh, this will be a solid C. It's gonna be good, but I don't know if I'll really love it. But it was such a well-made movie. It kind of surprised me just seeing it as a whole. And I definitely give it a B.
It kept my attention really well throughout the movie.
Right. Yeah, the pacing is excellent. It's edited really well, I feel.
Yeah. Like I actually was looking forward to like every scene. It wasn't like, oh God, here's another conversation between two idiots as we wait for the next kill. Right. It was, none of these characters are really well developed, but we don't care. It's not really about them. It's about Freddy and the mystery of what's going on. Yeah. So anyways, totally. Is it a midnight watch?
So this is one of those, we've come to this conundrum before. I got to give it a no-ish partially because there's certain scenes in this movie that if it came on TV, I'm watching that scene.
Right.
But is it a movie where every sequence, every chunk of the movie, every scene is totally worth, waiting around for? Probably not, in my opinion. So I guess based on that, I have to give it a no. But again, with the strings attached, if it's the scene where Tina is getting slashed up and dragged around the ceiling, that's pretty awesome to see.
It is. This is actually the movie I'm probably the most conflicted about for a midnight watch because like my head says no because like I don't watch this movie all the time, but my heart says yes. So I feel like I think this is a definitely. It is an iconic midnight movie. I'm gonna have to say yes. This is a midnight watch.
Cool.
Like I think that if I was up, this movie was playing, I think I would just settle in and be like, tomorrow's gonna suck. I gotta watch this movie. So,
right on. Well, I will join you halfway there on that. So cool.
Okay, it's a Twilight watch. That's what it is.
It's a solid Twilight watch for sure.
There we go. Well, that about wraps up today's episode. If you want to check out this movie, I own this movie actually. Where did you watch this movie?
I rented this on Amazon.
Oh, cool. Amazon. $2.99. It'll be about $2.99. Okay. If you special thanks to our sound producer Jake Colvin. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you shared it with your friends or anyone that you think would like it.
Please hit that subscribe button. We'd love to get more people listening to this every week on the reg, if you would. Please give us a 5-star rating. We'd love that. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, we're on Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcast, just about anywhere else you can get your podcast. Hit us up on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and the good old email. If you'd like to get a hold of us that way, contact us at themidnightwatchpodcast@gmail.com.
That's right, guys. You have an awesome week. And as always, Glenn sucks.